Yemi, blind and hungry, sat down on the floor helpless as she began to weep. She called out her daughters' names, groaning in pain as she could not believe how heartless they had become. Once upon a time, there lived a woman named Yemi. Yemi was blind and she lived with her 3 daughters in a very small village. Her daughters, Bimbo, Yinka and Fumi, hated their mother so much as they blamed her for the life that they were now living. Yemi was once a very wealthy woman who lost all she had in a fire many years ago. Her father left her with so much wealth, which she lost after the fire incident. The fire did not only engulf her wealth, but also stole her sight, leaving her a blind and helpless woman. Her daughters never stopped blaming her for plunging them into poverty, as they missed the life of extravagance they enjoyed before the fire. Yemi's daughters grew up in wealth and never knew what being poor felt like. They looked down on anyone who was not up to their standard and could not stand being classified as poor. They poured all their frustration on their blind mother and treated her with disdain. No day passed without the girls taunting their blind mother, and this broke Yemi's heart as she could not believe how heartless her daughters had become. One day, Yemi woke up and realized that she was all alone in her hut. Her daughters had all left the hut early, so Yemi decided to get something to eat as she was extremely hungry that morning. She made her way to her kitchen to eat the soup that she prepared the previous night and noticed that her daughters had filled the soup with salt. Yemi, blind and hungry, sat down on the floor helpless as she began to weep. She called out her daughters' names, groaning in pain as she could not believe how heartless they had become. So, she decided to leave her hut to go beg for food instead. She approached her neighbor Modupe, crying for food, and Modupe could not stand her tears as she quickly gave Yemi some food to eat. Modupe was a very poor woman who lived alone in the village. She was 40 years old and still unmarried. Many years ago, Modupe got her heart broken by a man who promised to marry her but ended up marrying her younger sister. She never moved on from the experience and decided never to get married. Modupe, despite all that had happened in her past, remained kind to people around her. She was extremely poor and barely had enough to eat. Modupe had just prepared a little meal for herself when Yemi came to her crying for food. Without thinking twice, Modupe gave Yemi her food to eat, not minding the fact that she had nothing left to eat. Once Yemi was done eating, Modupe helped her home and noticed how dirty Yemi's hut was. She cleaned up the entire hut, and Yemi was so grateful to her as her hut had not been cleaned in years. When Modupe was done cleaning, she notified Yemi, who prayed for her as she left. Yemi could not believe how a woman, faced with her own challenges, could be so kind to a poor blind woman like herself, and this gladdened her heart greatly. Later that evening, when Yemi's daughters arrived and met their blind mother in high spirits, they wondered what could have made her so happy. Yemi refused to tell them, as she knew that her daughters would confront Modupe if they realized that she was of help to her. One evening, Yemi's daughters returned home and met their mother on the floor. She mistakenly twisted her ankle and was in so much pain. She called out for their help, but her daughters ignored her, pretending not to hear her cry. Yemi remained on the floor all through the night, and by morning, Modupe came in to check on her and met her on the floor in tears. She quickly helped her up and rushed her to the village herbalist, who applied some local oils to the sprained ankle. For weeks, Yemi limped as her ankle healed. Her daughters never deemed it necessary to assist their blind mother with anything, as they never cared about her well-being. Yemi spent her days seated on her favorite chair, as that was the only place she felt at peace. A few months later, Yemi noticed that her water pot was empty, so she pleaded with her daughters to fetch some water for her from the village river, but her daughters laughed to her face, saying that if she desperately needed water, then she should go to the stream herself to fetch the water. Sad and disappointed, Yemi began to weep as her daughters turned away to leave her presence. She went into her hut to grab her calabash when Modupe approached her and volunteered to fetch the water. Yemi's daughters witnessed all that happened and were furious to know that their neighbor Modupe was the one helping their blind mother. They waited for Modupe by the bush path and warned her to keep away from their mother. By the time Modupe arrived at Yemi's hut, Yemi could feel from her voice that something was wrong, but Modupe refused to tell her what had happened. She made up her mind to continue helping Yemi despite her daughter's warnings. Modupe would harvest farm produce from her little farm and prepare delicious meals for Yemi, and this went on for a very long time, till one fateful day. Modupe fell terribly ill and was unable to fetch some water for Yemi. Yemi, unable to find anyone else who was willing to help her, decided to fetch the water by herself, as she could not bring herself to bother Modupe, who was now extremely sick. After several pitfalls, Yemi found her way to the stream with the help of a villager who she met on her way. She was about fetching the water when she suddenly fell into the stream, and the villagers around the stream searched for her everywhere but couldn't find her. They rushed to inform her daughters that their blind mother had drowned in the village river. Instead of feeling sad about the news, they told the villagers that their mother deserved what she got. When the news got to Modupe that Yemi had drowned in the village river, she hurriedly rushed to the river and jumped looking for Yemi. She searched and searched and searched, but Yemi was nowhere to be found. Modupe screamed in pain as she could not believe that Yemi had drowned in the river. She returned to her hut devastated and saw Yemi's daughters talking and laughing outside their hut. Filled with anger, Modupe approached them to tell them how wicked they were. She could not believe how unbothered they looked, knowing that their blind mother had just drowned in the river. Modupe returned to her hut sad as she blamed herself for everything that happened. "I caused it," she said, as she wished she was not sick on that fateful day. For days, Modupe could not sleep or eat, as all she could think about was Yemi. Yemi's daughters, on the other hand, cared less about their mother or if her body was ever found in the river. After months of searching the river, the villagers finally found a body which looked so much like Yemi's body. So they gathered at Yemi's hut one night to plead with her daughters to perform the burial rites of their mother, but they refused, saying that the villagers should do as they pleased with the burial. Modupe, on hearing this, took it upon herself to ensure that the burial was conducted. Her heart shattered into a million pieces to see a woman being treated in such a way by her own daughters. One day, Yemi's daughters heard a knock on their door. They opened up and saw a very rich man who informed them of something of value that their mother owned that he was willing to buy. The rich man told them that he was interested in buying their mother's favorite chair as it was so valuable to him. He informed the sisters that he was willing to pay any amount to have the chair, and the sisters opened their mouths in shock as they never knew that the chair was so valuable. The man asked if they were willing to sell the chair to him, and without thinking twice, they all agreed, and the man told them to deliver the chair to his house that evening when they agreed on the amount they were willing to sell it for. The sisters were so excited as they jumped up in jubilation. They arrived at the rich man's house that evening with the chair and were amazed at how beautiful his house was. As they were admiring his house, they saw their mother walk out of the house. Their jaws dropped as they asked their mother what she was doing alive, as they all thought that she was dead. Their mother looked at them and smiled as she saw the confusion written all over their faces. "Mother, you are no longer blind," they said shockingly as their mother smiled at them once again. The rich man then emerged from the house and stood behind their mother. The sisters went on to ask their mother what she was doing in the rich man's house, and their mother revealed to them that the house was hers and that the man was her son. The sisters opened their mouths in shock as they asked what was going on. Their mother then went on to reveal that they were not her children, but the children of a poor widow who died a long time ago, leaving her babies with no care. The poor widow had no family, and when Yemi saw this, she volunteered to take the children as her own. At that time, her only son had traveled out of the country and did not return until recently. Yemi decided to treat the widow's children as her own and never told them of their origin. However, as they grew, they became so uncouth and proud. So Yemi pretended to have lost all her riches to see if the girls would change and be better people. She thought that depriving them of their luxury and pretending to be blind would make them empathic towards the poor, but notice that their behavior became worse even when they lost everything. Yemi revealed to them that in life they had to learn to treat others with kindness, as true wealth was not just about material possessions but about the goodness and kindness that one shared with others. Yemi explained that Modupe, despite being poor, had a heart of gold, and it was Modupe's kindness that brought her back to her senses. The sisters were now filled with guilt as they realized that Yemi was not their mother and that their real mother was a poor widow. They begged Yemi for forgiveness, promising to change their ways and become better individuals. Yemi, being a forgiving soul, embraced the sisters and forgave them. She explained that the true lesson was not to amass wealth at the expense of kindness and compassion, but to live a life that positively impacted others. Yemi then sent for Modupe, who was so happy to see her alive. She thanked Modupe for being so kind to her and rewarded her with so many riches. Yemi also pleaded with Modupe to teach her adopted daughters the importance of compassion, humility, and the true meaning of wealth. Modupe, touched by Yemi's generosity, agreed to help guide and mentor her daughters. She shared her own experiences of heartbreak and how she found solace in helping others despite her own hardship. Modupe became a motherly figure to the once wayward daughters, instilling in them the values of empathy, kindness, and the importance of genuine relationship. As time went on, the girls learned their lessons the hard way and changed their ways, treating people with respect and kindness. The lesson to be learned from this story is that true wealth lies not in worldly possessions or status, but in the warmth we provide to others by being kind and selfless. In life, we should learn to treat people kindly even when they have nothing to offer in return. The way we treat others should not be hinged on their material wealth or social status, but rather on the content of their character. I hope you enjoyed the story.
Like, subscribe and leave a comment. It helps us grow our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.